All right, yes. Well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon on this semi-smoky, extremely hot afternoon. I'm going to call to order this hybrid work session of the Clark County Commission on Aging. It is July 19th, 2023, and I'm Cass Friedland. And before we begin, I'd like to share some hybrid meeting reminders. Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking, and for those in the room, you'll need to press the button on the microphone to speak and then press it again to mute. The light at the bottom of the mic turns green when unmuted and red when muted. And we're also going to try to, when you do have a comment, if you could just say your name prior to giving the comment, that would be really, really helpful. Thank you so much today. So first on the agenda, we have, as you see next to you on our work session agenda, we have a go-around question for commission members, and that is, what is the one thing that you hope to contribute to our Commission on Aging group? And who would like to start?
One of the things I like to contribute to the group is I think I can bring some insight into some of the views of the younger generations in our community and how that could potentially tie into health.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. That's wonderful.
I would like
your
to.
Name.
What?
Tell them your name.
Oh, I'm not on?
Name.
Oh, I'm
Never
sorry.
mind. Just go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing what people are saying, but it's okay. We'll work that out, but name is Dick Claremont. What else?
What are you bringing to this?
Okay. I hope to bring a different perspective, one of age, of course, and one of a disability to it. I think it provides sometimes a fresh look at how we look at things. So that's what I hope to bring.
Thank you so much, Dick. Ken, please.
I'm Ken Lund, and I would like to hope that I can bring a perspective that includes not just 40 years of industry-related experience with seniors, but the personal experience of being the primary caregiver to both my mother-in-law and my mother. And so I know both sides of that equation, and hopefully that will be a contributor in this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Mel, you feel like weighing in there?
Mel Sanchez here, and what I hope to bring is to make a difference for people out in the community. I have a project going on right now in Battleground, getting a sidewalk put in for the senior apartments there, and I hope maybe in my tenure I'll get 2 or 3 projects like that.
Thank you so much, Mel. Franklin.
Franklin Johnson. There's a couple of things I hope to bring. First, I'd like to bring good ears. I want to learn and take in as much information from all of you and from the people that we're going to be working with to increase my perspective and learning base. The other thing I'd like to bring is to really put some emphasis on the new chapter regarding emergency preparedness. Back in my younger day, I used to work on wildfires and had some really heartbreaking experiences seeing people's homes and lives uprooted dramatically due to lack of preparation and struggling to really come to grips with the impending impacts that they were facing. So I hope that we can really bring that chapter to life and make it be useful to our aging community.
Thank you, Franklin. Should I jump on in and Larry will follow up, or would you like to go next?
You know, just actually, I've got two, hope to contribute to the group. I'm a veteran, 26 years in the Army. I've been all over when I was in the Army, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's, and I have combat experience, whether it's Germany, and whether it's Korea. I've been to all three different places. There's 38,000 veterans that live in Clark County. Probably more than that when you military connected moms and dads who have kids in the service. So it's a big community for veterans. So I bring a perspective because I belong to just about all the veteran organizations. I'm American Legion, VFW, 40 and 8, and I participate in them, and I know what the guys and gals are thinking. And I want to make sure that their issues are covered and are considered. The other thing, I'm fortunate, I'm a city council member for 12 years, so I know what policy is and how to make policy, and the difficulty that goes into making good policy that everyone can appreciate. I was 12 years at the Vancouver City Council. 8 of those years was the mayor pro tem. So both those perspectives, I think, add to our commission and make the commission stronger, and certainly the representation of those individuals that exist out there.
Thank you so much, Larry. And this is Cass. So with my background and really love of great community engagement, of thinking about how to connect together partnerships and people so that we can really sort of have everyone know about the resources that are available and find good ways for people to partner, to fill in gaps in care and health in our group. That's something I'm really, really looking forward to being part of with the commission. So with that, I think we have a pretty rich membership here, and thank you all for being part of it. I'm really, truly excited about the work that we have ahead. So this is wonderful. So why don't we move on to the next agenda item. That is the meeting note review for both the May 17th and June 21st meetings. June 21st, we had last month, we had our wonderful retreat, so we didn't really do any of this work. Are there any suggested changes to the work session notes that anyone may have seen?
Thank you. I have one, and that is because I can't see you and I don't hear all that well, even with the hearing aids, if we could just make sure we have microphones on, so that helps so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dick. We'll be working on that. Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think we should have our retreat, change the venue and have it in Hawaii. All those in favor say aye.
I'll at least second it.
Thanks, Mel. I love that. Okay, well, if there are no suggested changes to the May and June work notes, are there any suggested changes to the regular session notes? And I don't see any changes. Thank you so much. We'll be readdressing that and voting that on at our next session. This is a really exciting meeting because we have not only thinking about ahead, but we're going to be hearing next session about our aging readiness plan, which has been one of these, you know, I feel like in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're charging the castle, and it sort of takes forever for them to get there, and then all of a sudden they're there. I feel like we are finally here. We're going to be hearing from Rose about that. But before we get to that moment, Jenna, Susan, I'm not sure if you both will be doing this, but share with us some upcoming subcommittee work that each of us can consider being part of.
Thank you. So yes, I'm going to ask for 2 to 3 volunteers for 2 separate subcommittees today. Not sure if all of you know this or not, but we normally have a total of 9 members. And one of our members, Sue Cameron, recently resigned, so we are going to be filling her position. And,
Was that over health reasons? Was health, okay.
thank you. So the new member will be filling her spot for approximately 2 years, and the news release was just sent out, and the request for applicants will close on August 18th. So the timing of the commitment for the subcommittee would probably be at the end of August. But before I ask for volunteers, I do think that Chair Friedland or Vice Chair Johnson wanted to mention something about this, but they're both looking at me about which members might fulfill the seats on the choosing a new members committee. So I'll just fill in. So because the newer members have only the retreat under their belt, we were thinking that maybe some of the members that have been on the commission for longer would fulfill this subcommittee. So that's the first subcommittee that I'll be asking for volunteers about, and then I'll tell you about the second one, and then we can talk about both. The second is for the Silver Citizen Award. The Silver Citizen Award recognizes the contributions of older adults that make the community, that recognizes valuable contributions older adults make to the community, and is open to any county resident 60 or older. And we go through a process where we ask for applicants for the Silver Citizen Award, and then the committee will choose the recipient, and we do a really nice award ceremony in November of each year. So that's the second committee, and the commitment for that will be in late August or early September, and because the news release for that is going out soon, and applications are due August 25th for that. So do I have any of the more seasoned commission members that would like to fulfill the new member?
You're looking at me.
Not as-
I will do it wherever I can fit in.
Okay. Thank you,
I'm
Larry.
okay with either. The question I do have is, what folks will be coming off the commission next year? How many? Do you know?
Let me
I think I'm one of them.
We can look that up.
I'm almost there.
I think it is going to be
I think
Larry,
just-
you, and I think
Yes.
myself. I think
Just
we
two?
were the same year. You
We're
were given
termed
your...
out. Are we termed out? 2 terms? I'm only one. Okay, so I'm 2 terms, so I'm
Yes,
termed
you'll
out.
be ending your second
So
term.
my, I'm finish up in June.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, okay. All right, I mean, you can put me on either committee. I'll
Okay.
serve in either one, whichever makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Franklin Johnson here. I'll serve on the new member committee.
Thank you, Franklin.
And Cass, I'd be happy to do that as well, new member.
Thank you. Okay, and open to any commission member. Is anyone interested in serving on the Silver Citizen Award?
I will say it's super fun. You read about amazing people, and it's great to have the conversation among members, so thank you, Ken.
I'll do it too. Mel Sanchez.
Susan, I'm not sure if you got it, but I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay, so I have Ken, Mel, and Justin serving on that committee. Okay, fabulous. We're going to put you on the new member committee. We could have 4. Yeah, you want to be on that one too? Okay. Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So, thank you for all who stepped forward, and I think next we're going to address the 2023-2024 work plan and schedule. And I think that was staff, Jenna, you're going to be telling us a bit about that.
Yeah, so this is Jenna, and in your meeting packet, we provided you with a 2023 calendar, and I wanted to just walk through the rest of this year, and then also talk about what Susan and I have been doing with all of the great notes we took capturing your conversation from the retreat, and how we're starting to think about that and maybe get some feedback from all of you to make sure we're heading in the right direction. So, but starting with this year, okay, so last year, the Commission on Aging decided that for 2023, the overarching theme was going to be community engagement. And the idea behind that was that community engagement would be a big part of updating the Aging Readiness Plan. And once that project was well on its way, the Commission would shift its work towards working on some community engagement type strategies from the Aging Readiness Plan. So today, we're at our July meeting, and so the main presentation that's coming up later today is a summary of the updated Aging Readiness Plan. So we are towards the end of that project. And then starting in August, that's when we're really going to shift into community engagement related strategies in the Aging Readiness Plan and trying to move a couple of those forward during the rest of the year. So as of right now, for August, we have invited staff from the Area Agency on Aging of Southwest Washington, and they're going to have they're going to join you all and have a conversation. Cass and Franklin have been, one of them will be moderating the conversation and really kicking off this topic and talking about how to partner on a couple of ideas that they're hoping to work on for the rest of the year. So I won't give too much away there, but anyway, they've been starting to talk and prep for that conversation. And then, so that's August. And then in September, we're still confirming with guests, but in September, we're hoping to have staff who work for the city of Portland and/or Multnomah County, who also have aging plans and aging action committees similar to the Commission on Aging, inviting them to talk about similar efforts that they've worked on to see if there can be some cross-pollination on ideas, if there's things we can maybe borrow from each other related to increasing community engagement. So that's September. In October, we are planning to invite a guest who can share some examples from other places across the country. So we're not quite sure yet who it will be. It may be someone who works with AARP, but it may be just someone from another community who's done something very cool that they can share with you all. So we're working on pinning down those guests. Okay, so that's October. November, we are envisioning some possible subcommittee work sort of that goes along with these conversations to help move a few ideas forward. So we're anticipating in November, folks who are working in the subcommittees would share back to the group some draft products and and get some feedback so that we can then finalize those items. December, we typically take off, so there's not usually a commission meeting. And then in January, there is an annual joint meeting with the county council. So we invite the county councilors to join you all. And that's when you have an annual meeting with them, you give an update on what's happened over the past year. It'll be an opportunity for you to share what comes out of the work over the next few months. Okay, so that's a bit of what's coming up the next couple of months. Any questions about any of that right now? Okay. And we have a more detailed document that has some more details. Once it's a little bit further along, we will share that with all of you, that has some more details. Okay, so that's the rest of this year. And then looking further ahead to 2024, this is where the Commission has discussed focusing on emergency preparedness, and a lot of the discussion towards the end of the retreat was around that topic, if you can remember back to last month. So this is a very draft document, but I'm going to pull it up to talk from it. Okay. So Susan and I were reviewing all of the notes that were taken during the retreat and tried to look at, what you were saying, and then look in the Aging Readiness Plan for strategies that seemed related to what you were saying. So we've started a list of some of the strategies that were standing out to us. But again, this is like a first draft, so we'll want you all to look at this and give us feedback as we keep working on this plan. So we've pulled out a handful of strategies related to emergency preparedness in the plan. So for instance, one strategy is about expanding neighborhood association capacity to increase connection to older adults. And there's several other strategies in there. So we'll send this document out to you all soon once we get a little more detail in it. So you can look at these strategies, see if they do make sense, and match what you all were discussing during the retreat or not. But the idea being, if we can identify a handful of strategies, you all can really design your work and your focus related to them. And, how do we move these ideas forward? So maybe you'll identify some specific deliverables or outcomes that tie to those. We'll have to figure that out down the road. And also based on the retreat discussion, it seemed like the group liked the idea of having a few priority strategies, talking with community partners, guests, experts, and so forth to help flesh out ideas or figure out how to work together, using subcommittees as needed to help move work forward, and also giving community presentations as well. So that's what we heard coming out of the retreat. And so how we're envisioning that this could be working is that you would have your monthly meetings. We'd organize them, around these priority strategies. We would invite key community partners that there was a lot of brainstorming during the retreat, so we'd invite folks to join you at your meetings, almost like creating a community learning cohort who's interested in this emergency preparedness topic for older adults. And some of your meetings could be more like a training session, where you have someone from CRESA or the fire department or another emergency responder could be talking about what it should be in everybody's, in your go bag, or things you should be thinking about that as you get older, that you need to make sure you have plans for in case you need to evacuate, things like that. But then you could have other meetings that were more conversational and talking with partners like, okay, what do we do to build neighborhood capacity, you know, things like that. So that's what we're envisioning, is sort of a combination of different types of meetings like that. And, sorry, gotta get my mouse working. And then again, as we dive into these topics further, you all can figure out what it is that might be an outcome that you're working for. Maybe you need subcommittees to help work on something on the side that could be happening in between meetings. So anyway, there's a lot to figure out, but that's generally how we took what you all discussed and started to put on paper. So our main question for you all today is, how does that sound? Should we keep going in this direction? Should we change course and, you know, think about planning in a different direction? So we wanted to use this as a check-in before we spend more time trying to flesh this out.
Yeah, I thank you so much, Jenna. That's a lot that you've had to just try and conceptualize here. I think, you know, in our discussions, certainly Franklin and I, this is Cass, by the way, speaking, and with Susan and Jenna over the last few months, is that there's so much that we all can learn from folks within our community. There's so much going on, and there might be someone, we're lucky enough in our group, that knows all of it. I don't happen to be one of those folks, so just trying to learn all of the great workings and services and programs and organizations that are in the community. That's a big part of it. But we were also sort of thirsting for a little bit more action piece in there too, to have in our meetings a little bit of fun too. I mean, it is fun to hear about these groups, but also to sort of be able to think about how can we also perhaps do things that deepen our learning, but also folks who might be tuning in to our meetings can also sort of see things happening as well, because there's many different ways that, of course, people learn, not just by sitting and listening. So, that's sort of what was going through our mind. Does anybody have any thoughts that they'd like to share? This is a continuing conversation, certainly.
That's a lot of information that you just dropped, and it's like, we just went through it quickly, but some time to digest that and maybe respond would be helpful, if you want.
Yeah, so that document that I did not print for you all or share in advance, we can send that out so you can look at it and think about it and then revisit next month too. I think we just want to make sure what Susan and I are coordinating and planning is what you all actually want as a group to do. So we can do that.
This is Ken. It was an amazing list, but kind of like Justin, it's a fire hose. And on top of that, you've got half of the people sitting here that have got 2 hours of complete service. So it's kind of hard to respond to it, but it was an amazing list. Is that time sensitive, or do we have the grace of having the opportunity to review it?
Yeah, I think we want your feedback soon. So I think Susan and I, we are in the process of scheduling out your guests for this year. So I think this year we're sort of heading on the pathway I talked about based on earlier commission discussions. I think we have a couple more months to sort out the plans for next year. We just need a couple months headway to schedule people is our main, that's what we need. So
for clarification, you feel like for now through the end of the year, for example, that's pretty well nailed down. And so if we take until the next meeting to review the document, do you want feedback in writing, or do you want it in a discussion in the next meeting? What would you prefer?
I think we definitely want to talk about it next meeting as a group, but if you are a person who likes to write things down, we are happy to take that as well. But I think the main point is that you all talk about it as a group at your next meeting.
So why don't you both just sort of move forward with what you're doing. And then that document, when it's distributed, then if we need to, you know, alter or think about changes, we can do that once we all begin our discussion and really talk. Does that sound great to everyone? Okay. So we'll just sort of, we'll inch ahead rather than run ahead and grab everybody up to where we are.
Is it fair to say, though, that you've been involved in this conversation? So this isn't new to you guys that have been here. It's just new to us that are new.
It's actually something that the four of us have been talking about. So you are not the only one that it's new to.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, everyone is going to sort of, I think Jenna and Susan had been putting this together and just wanted to read the temperature of the room rather than necessarily have anything defined today.
Okay.
So the temperature of the room feels like maybe let's move ahead with this, and then if we need to change the temperature a few degrees one way or the other down the road, we'll do that. Does that sound fair to everyone? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so moving along, it is July. And what July means for the Commission on Aging is that it is time for us to consider interest in the Commission on Aging leadership positions for the coming year. The chair and vice chair positions are one-year assignments, but they can be held for a maximum of 2 years. So I think on our agenda here, thinking we're going to be talking a little bit about the leadership position, but also thinking about interest in the liaison positions for four important partnerships. So the Aging and Disability Resource Network, which is a quarterly meeting, the Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington, what we call ADSWAS, their advisory council, which is only an attend and listen role. It's not actually doing any voting or working with the policy. The Clark County Public Health, which is a monthly personal phone call to a representative at Public Health to be able to report back. So for instance, Amy Gross, who was on our commission for the last 6 years, she had a monthly phone call, particularly during the horrible COVID crisis, and she had the heartbreaking role of telling us the terrible news that was coming out of it every single month, but she did an extraordinary job of keeping us up to date, so there's that. And then there's the Community in Motion Accessible Transportation Coalition, ATC, that I know that Mel is sitting on currently, and that is a quarterly meeting. So, Genesis, maybe you could just guide us through some of the processes ahead here?
Yeah, so the commission chair and vice chair positions, you will need to formally vote on those. So voting will happen in your next meeting, because we tend to reserve your formal voting for your second, more public-facing meeting. And then the liaison roles, it's more informal. If you wanted to vote, you could, but the purpose at the work session now is it's an opportunity for you all to let each other know what you're interested in. While you're voting for chair and vice chair, you can nominate anyone in the group, but we would recommend you nominate someone willing to serve in those roles. So now's your opportunity to just share that willingness. And then with the liaison roles, also an opportunity to share what might be of interest. Most of these groups, you could also have an alternate, or people could split the role if there's several people interested, things like that. So want to use this opportunity to just share that information, and then you can formalize everything at your next meeting, and we will walk through how the voting will work. But maybe you all can share first, and then we can talk about process.
Franklin, I saw you move your mic. Oh, I'm sorry, Mel, go on.
So are we making nominations now?
So right now, you're just sharing interest. You're speaking for yourself at this moment if you are interested in serving in any of these roles. That's all.
We're speaking for ourselves, may I? I was just going to say the liaison, the ADRN, or the Clark County Public Health I would be interested in serving in one of those capacities. Sorry, this is Ken.
This is Justin Ross. I'd be interested in the Area Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington Advisory Council.
This is Franklin Johnson. I've been a vice chair for 2 years, so I've got to step down from that position. If I'm considered, I would be interested in serving in the chair position. And in terms of the liaison positions, I'm interested in both the Clark County Public Health and the Community in Motion, so whichever one of those needs to be covered, I'd be willing to do that.
And this is Cass, and with Franklin having served his vice chair role admirably and wonderfully for 2 years, stepping up if he is selected to step up to chair, I would like to be considered as vice chair. And I'd like to, along with Justin, maybe do the swing role that if Justin is unable to attend one of the ADSWA council or listen to that, I'd like to sort of be an alternate for that.
Susan, what are the other two representations that we need to have? What are the other two?
Are you talking about the subcommittees that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, what are the others two?
One is to select a new member to replace Sue Cameron, and...
Got that. I'm talking about representation at the various organizations, liaisons. You said 2 of them are filled right now. I think I heard 2 volunteers step up.
So Mel is serving on the Community in Motion Accessible Transportation Coalition.
And I would like to continue there, Mel would.
And Cass has been serving on the ADSWA Aging and Disabilities Resource Network. Did I miss anything, Jenna?
I think that's right. So what I've jotted down so far for interest is I've heard Franklin is interested in the chair position, Cass is interested in the vice chair position, Ken is interested in the ADRN or public health liaison position, Justin is interested in the ADSWA Advisory Council, Franklin also happy to serve in the public health or community in motion liaison role, and then Cass being an alternate for the ADSWA Advisory Council, and Mel serving on community in motion. Did I miss anybody's interests that they've expressed so far?
I think that's what I have.
So you filled them all?
Yes, that's the short answer, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Someone has volunteered for every position. And I guess one question for the liaison roles where maybe there's more than one person interested, we could, if you all want to split the role or have an alternate, it's up to you all to decide, and that's something we could sort out right now if you'd like to figure that out.
So we have, I guess, so I'll clearly do the alternate role, Justin, and you know, you'll just let me know as needed to sort of attend for that. So I guess we were thinking about public health, or Franklin, what were you interested in? Those 2 there, the public health and the transportation. Would you like to serve as a alternate, or just the 2 people vote for it?
Yeah, I would just serve as an alternate on the Community in Motion, but I may have been interested if no one has the public health. I'd like to.
Cass. if I might, if you want to take, I'd have to be happy to be the alternate on the public health. If you're primary, and if you don't mind having a sidekick as a alternate, that'd be great.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I've got Ken will serve on the ADRN and alternate for public health. Justin will be the liaison to the ADSO Advisory Council with Cass as alternate. Mel will be on Community Motion Liaison with Franklin as alternate. And then you all will formally vote on chair and vice chair in the next meeting. Does that sound like I got that?
I think so. I have lots of arrows, so I'm just going to guess that that is where we're going. Does that sound good, everybody?
Okay, so now I want to just walk through the logistics of voting in your next meeting, because Robert's Rules of Order is more complicated perhaps than it needs to be at times. So when you get to the voting portion of your next meeting, Cass is going to lead you all through sort of the steps to vote. First, you'll vote for the chair, and then you'll vote for the vice chair position. So first, she's going to open the floor for nominations, and so that's the time for you all to nominate whoever you would like to throw out as a nomination for the position. Then someone is going to need to make a motion to close the nominations. So when there's no more nominations made, she'll ask for a motion to close the nominations. Then Cass is then there's opportunity for discussion if anyone wants to talk about who's been nominated. And then after discussion, Cass will facilitate voting. So if, let's say, three people were nominated, she'll ask people to vote who wants to vote for the first person, then she'll ask for who wants to vote for the second person, and so forth. You can only vote for one person, though. And then whoever receives the most vote is elected into that position. So, again, probably more steps than seem necessary, but that's the official process. Any questions?
Janet, it looks like 7 of us will be voting. Donna is not going to be here for the...
Correct. Donna was not feeling great, so is not here today. Correct.
Wonderful, thank you. I have that written out in a detailed fashion. We will go through that process together. Please feel free to jump in if I've missed a step, all right? I want to make sure that we do it properly. Wonderful. So our next item is a public comment debrief. And again, Jen or Susan, could you share any public comments that we have received? No?
We don't think we've received anything since the last meeting, so nothing to share with you all.
Okay, thank you. So moving to our other updates, we're going to hear two different things. First of all, if anyone has a liaison report, and then we're going to hear just a little bit about how the community presentations went for those who gave them in the last couple of months. So first of all, any liaison reports? I have a very short report from the last ADRN. And so perhaps I'll just jump in since my microphone is turned on, if that's okay. There were 3 different speakers. Sam Lewis shared updates from the Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue's fantastic Community Assistance Referral and Education Services, or CARES, program, which has served underserved populations, especially senior citizens, in the past several years. This CARE program aims to be the bridge to gaps for services that are available in Clark County and Southern Cowlitz County. The Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue Program, they use the program as an alternative to situations where people don't necessarily need need a response from police or an ambulance. They have a team that will go out and respond in cases where, again, they don't need a police officer and an ambulance in there. So that's been a really great program for them. Secondly, we heard about the Hope Music Therapy Program, which is part of Hope Dementia Support. And for those who might not be familiar with Hope Dementia Support, it's a credible organization that offers hope to care partners of those experiencing memory loss, and their mission is to provide support, education, and advocacy to individuals caring for people with all types of dementia. And finally, we heard from Claire Holding, who discussed the deeply impactful 3andMe program. It offers an opportunity for seniors to connect with like-minded peers and be creative through arts and crafts. And the classes foster social integration and creativity. We know social integration, particularly during COVID, was very, very difficult. So the art experiences for seniors and their families, friends and colleagues and caregivers are thoughtfully designed to appeal to all ages and skill levels and provide a valuable social environment while making memories. And I'm going to send all the information with the handouts and everything to you both, Susan and Jenna, so maybe we can include those on our pages. So that's all that I have. Anyone else have a liaison report?
As many of you know, my pet project has been to get that sidewalk completed between the Magnolia Square Senior Apartments and the Walmart. Number one, because many of the residents there, that's where they want to go, and number two, because it's a lot safer than to go to the other places where they have to cross where lights are and people are coming home. So anyway, it has been budgeted and approved by the city council. They're doing, they put it up for bid, and a bidder has been selected. Number three, right now they're doing studies, environmental and the logistics of it all, and they hope to begin work on it sometime at the beginning of next year. So, yeah.
Great work. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mel. Any other liaison reports anyone has? No? Maybe we could move on to then the community presentations to city councils and organizations. Franklin, I know that you did both La Center and Washougal. I don't know if you'd like to do them together, or we give you a little break in between the two?
No, thank you. Doing these community presentations has been really kind of an eye-opening experience for me. Considering the time that I've lived in Clark County, I haven't seen much of Clark County other than the Vancouver area and my travels up to the Seattle area for our family. So the meeting in the center was really interesting, and please, Jenna, if I overlook something, please step in and add. But you go into these meetings and you don't quite know what to expect. And from my time in D.C., I was so used to adversarial meetings, I was kind of holding my breath as I walked through the door. But we got a positive welcome, and it turned out that the former city attorney for Vancouver is now living in the center and was present at the meeting. So we had a chance to exchange formalities and former pleasantries. But the interest, I was really impressed that there was really a strong interest in what we're doing, and especially around the Aging Readiness Plan. So I was very encouraged by that. Jenna, do you want to add anything?
I agree. I think it was well received in both cities, and I feel like questions were to learn more. Something we said in the presentation, they were following up on, what did you say? What did you say about this program? Or how would I learn more about this program? Things like that. So it seemed good, and I guess I'd just add, for those of you new to the commission, these presentations to each of the city councils are, the main focus is sharing what the commission did last year and a bit about what's in progress this year. So it's an annual update to each city council.
Thank you. The presentation in Washougal was a little different. Both the mayor was abroad in their sister city, so they, I'm not sure what the technology was, either WebEx or Skyped in or whatever, but they seemed to put a priority on wanting to be there and hearing about the program, so that was very reassuring. I noticed that the dynamic financially in Washougal was noticeably different. We had spent some time prior to that looking at how Washougal and Camas shared fire support services. And so there was some real interesting conversation around that, especially around some of the budget items. But again, there was a very good reception. And we got a chance to kind of understand some of the fabric of the community, so that was really, really good. Again, Jenna was my sidekick and bailed me out of any sticky situations, so would you like to add anything to that one?
I think you covered it well.
Thank you. That's all I have on that.
Thank you so much, Franklin. And Mel, I think that if you wouldn't mind telling us a few things about your experiences speaking with Battleground and maybe the recent ATCI meeting.
Well, different than Franklin's experience, they know me at the Battleground City Council because I've been advocating for the Magnolia Square apartments and that sidewalk being put in, but there was none of that this time. And Jenna helped me bumble through it. And in the second one, I wasn't even able to bumble through it with technical difficulties on my part. They were accepting, but it's very interesting that after you left and they had a developer come in and talk about some low housing that he wants to put in and mentioned our report and how we had that in our plan, and he said what he had going on would suit that very nicely. So there was a correlation there, and that was great. At the ATCI meeting, Susan made the presentation again because I had technical difficulties, and she made an excellent presentation. People were interested. And do either one of you want to add anything?
I don't have anything to add. Do you, Jenna?
I guess the Battleground presentation stood out because they were also recognizing the high school jazz band. So there were like 100 people, you know, the kids and all their parents in the room. So it was a very packed house compared to some of our other presentations.
They were also recognizing it as Gay Pride Month. So, yeah, so the two things. And then we got up there and made our presentation, which all the excitement was over and done with. So, yeah. And Susan, thank you for being there and be able to pick it up. Had you not been there, I don't know what would have happened.
Happy to do it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mel, and of course, Susan and Jenna. Finally, so let me just add a little sidebar here for those of you who are new. On the commission, you're going to have a chance to provide, conversation and a little information sharing in different city councils over the course of about 3, 4, 5 months or so. And it's just a fantastic experience. There's a slideshow that is already sort of provided for us by our skilled staff and managers here. And so and then fielding questions. I think everyone feels like a deer in the headlights, perhaps, when the questions are, but that is something that, as, you know, professional city planners, Susan and Jenna are up on all of that. So they pipe right in and say, I can answer that question. And in fact, now I will segue to mine. My presentation, I think it was Monday night, right, in Camas. So Jenna and I there addressed the council. There were really great questions, again, about resources. People don't, this idea of communication and connectivity continues to be something that people feel disconnected and they don't know where to get resources, and the resources are out there. So that's something that the council folks are really, really interested in knowing about, particular types of resources. So those themes are really pertinent, and I think we're stepping into a zone in our work, particularly sort of working out from here, that as many presentations and as much information sharing as we could do is only going to be a great benefit for the community, because there are gaps, still gaps. So that's really all I have. And Jenna, any other thoughts? No, it was really lovely. It's a very, Camas City Council is a very intimate room, I would say. So even when you have about 25 people in there, it feels like you know everyone in the room. So it was a great setting to be just a couple of inches, almost, it felt like, from the council and giving that presentation. So with that, is there anything else before we adjourn this session?
Just one, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Just for you new members, Franklin invited the mayor of Battleground to come here to one of our meetings a few months back, and he came and he listened to us, and he also spoke to us for a little bit. So we all know who he is, and he's very active in the community.
Ken.
This is Ken. With regard to the presentations that you're making and part of the ongoing mentoring for the newbies, is there an opportunity as those come up for us to go and be a fly on the wall and watch how these are done?
Totally, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can just confirm we have one left with the City of Vancouver. It's in late August. Larry, you're on the schedule, so I have to look up what the exact date and time, but can share that with you, Ken, or anyone else who might want to sit in. But we are wrapping up this year's presentations.
In fact, Ken, you could go to the table, I'll do the presentation, and you'd be right alongside of me. Be a nice introduction. Yeah, and here's Ken. He'll close it out.
And Ken, perhaps you could answer that question.
Ken would answer the question.
No, it's an incredibly comfortable space that we're put in. So it's lovely. Wonderful, great question, thank you. So is there anything else before we adjourn for a few minutes?
I just have a quick comment. One of the takeaways for me was that we have a lot of interested people who would be very supportive of what we're doing. So while we sometimes, at least personally, I feel like we're kind of operating in a vacuum, but to get out into these communities, you really can sense the interest. So I think we need to keep that in mind as possible resources down the road as we're dealing with community engagement. And one last thing, I just want to express appreciation for the work that Jenna and Susan have done in putting together the presentations that we relied on and being there to support us, hold our hands, whatever's necessary. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that.
Hear, hear.
I just have something to add a little bit to what Franklin picked up. One of the things that has come back that the City of Vancouver does well is a concert series. They do one at the waterfront Thursday evening, and it starts at 6:30, and then they do one at Columbia Tech Center. I usually go to those because I used to be a Parks and Recreation director and started those programs back in 1998, 1999, when the Esther Short Park opened back up. But the thing that's neat about it is you look out there and you see that the diversity of people, young and old alike, which I think is so helpful for a community when they come together, people talking to each other. If they're not talking to each other, they're down front dancing and having a good time with one another. I think that's just so healthy. And it's not only the city that's doing it. I notice just about Camas has opened the doors. People are really anxious to get back out together. And that's a good sign. Instead of hovering down in their house and so forth, get out, having a good time. And I just think helps the dialogue of people communicating with one another and appreciating one another and what they have to say. But I just wanted to note that because a couple other folks mentioned the same thing in saying, Larry, isn't this nice to see? Then this makes you feel good, and it does.
Thank you so much, Larry. And in fact, I have been to 3 of the 4 concerts. They have been fabulous. I would recommend it. The evening, the sun is setting, an egret's flying over, you know, the breeze is blowing, no mosquitoes. It is amazing. So I'd highly recommend it.
Just a little story because it's kind of a neat. I was sitting down at the concert at Columbia Tech Center. And I was sitting down there, and this gentleman sat next to me, and he talking to himself, and grumpy as hell, and so forth. It was really bad. I thought I was going to have a bad night. And the band started playing, and all of a sudden he got up, and I thought, uh-oh, this is not good. So he goes up front and starts dancing. He's dancing with all these women and everything else. And he came back to the chair after he was dancing, and he was the happiest guy in the world. And I was thinking, God, if that does that type of action to you, makes you feel good, then it's all worth it.
Just quickly, La Center has, on Saturdays, their concerts in the park as well.
Well, wonderful. Well, why don't, to give everybody a little chance to stand up before our 4:30 session begins, why don't we adjourn this work session? Thank you all for your comments, for the information that you provided, and we will meet again at 4:30 for our public meeting.